The final commission of architect Frank Lloyd Wright was the design of the majestic Marin Civic Center and Administration Building in San Rafael, California. Groundbreaking for the complex was begun in 1960 after Wright's death and completed in 1962. The Hall of Justice was begun in 1966 and completed in 1969. On April 7, 1970, shortly 1 year after completion, the Marin County Superior Court was the scene of an attempted jailbreak and hostage trade led by 17-year-old Jonathan Jackson, the brother of Black Panther militant George Jackson. Jackson's motivation was an attempt to negotiate the freedom of the Soledad brothers by kidnapping Superior Court Judge Harold Haley and other courtroom hostages. The Soledad brothers consisted of George Jackson, Fleta Drumeau, and John Cluchette, who were being held in San Quentin prison awaiting trial for the murder of a prison guard, John Mills. Mills had been beaten and thrown from the third floor of Soledad's Y Ring. The 30-minute-long ordeal began by a routine trial of defendant James McLean, a prisoner at San Quentin, who Haley allowed to represent himself. He had been charged with the possession of a knife and stabbing a prison guard. As part of his defense, 4 fellow prisoners from San Quentin were called to testify on his behalf. Ruchell McGee was on the witness stand when Jonathan Jackson rose from the audience and disrupted the proceedings by raising a pistol towards the judicial stand. In the chaos that followed, Jackson removed 2 additional guns from a satchel which he had carried in, as well as a sawed-off shotgun. He distributed the weapons to the prisoners awaiting trial and in the holding area. The kidnappers, after some debate, secured 5 hostages, including Judge Haley, Deputy District Attorney Gary Thomas, and 3 jurors. The group, tethered together, made their way into the elevator and into the waiting lobby. At that point, they secured a van which they had left in the parking lot to attempt an ill-fated escape. Police and San Quentin guards had set up a roadblock outside of the Civic Center in anticipation of the group. According to eyewitnesses, law enforcement officials began to fire onto the van. A shootout resulted in which all of the convicts, with the exception of Ruchell McGee, were killed. Reports indicated that the Deputy District Attorney Thomas grabbed one of the kidnappers' guns and began firing from them from inside the van. Blood splattered everywhere from the resulting carnage. Haley was slain by a discharge of the shotgun by McGee. Thomas was seriously wounded in his back, leaving him wheelchair-bound, and one of the jurors suffered a wound to her arm. In retrospect, many facts were conveniently ignored in assigning blame for Jonathan Jackson's actions. It is inconceivable that a 17-year-old man would have the capacity or capability of orchestrating a suicidal hostage kidnapping. At 17, Jackson could not have legally even rented a van or secured the necessary firearms without assistance. His associate conspirators have never been condemned to their due justice. Their hands remain stained by the shed blood of 2 honorable judicial figures and a teenager who simply wanted his older brother reunited with him. The system of tight security prevalent in courtrooms today began with this incident in Marin County. Local courts were immediately wired with direct communications to the sheriff's departments, and metal detectors were installed in all courtrooms. We take these precautions today for granted. This expectation of preventative security illuminates the level of eroded and vanished respect for our institutions of authority. Far worse, no one is even astonished.